be back. But for now, just simple.
That's right. Spencer Conley giving it to KRS-One and our next guest.
Down. They just woke me up.
Right.
They just woke me up.
We got to wake you up, Spence.
You know most black folks don't get started till noon, but I'm up.
You better be up.
I'm up.
We're talking college football playoffs.
We're on laying down the law.
And we cannot let the Big 12 get pushed out of this 14 playoff. We won't have it. So without further ado, we bring in our ESPN Big 12 insider, Damon Sayles. Damon, good morning. I had to hear it from KRS-One.
KRS-One in the morning. You got to love that.
You got to.
Hey, welcome aboard.
We know you think very deeply.
Yes, sir. How's everybody doing this morning?
We're well.
Great. Appreciate
Awesome.
you asking.
Doing
How
great.
you doing, brother?
Good, real good. Ready to talk about this mess.
Man.
Because it is a mess.
Man, I'm telling you what. And, Damon, you and I have been talking offline. We've been, coordinating, demonstrating, evaluating, congregating. But listen, 4 teams in, that number 5 team, that number 6 team, really going to be disappointed. As soon as we go off air at 11:30, that'll be 12:30 Eastern, the selection show comes to light. And I'm just thinking of all kinds of scenarios. I thought last night, before I got a chance to catch up with you, Florida State, Oregon, Alabama, TCU is done. Nobody else needs to talk about anything else. Now, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm good with Florida State. I'm good with Oregon, and I'm good with Alabama. Not necessarily in that order. Obviously, that number 4 spot is the one, man. It's really going to depend on how the selection committee sees it. Are they looking at strength of schedule? Are they looking at head-to-head? Are they looking at who's hot right now and who can get them the best fan base? That's huge for me. And I mean, when you look at all 3 of the teams, TCU, Ohio State, and Baylor, all 3 played exceptionally well last night. It's a mess right now. I'm just glad that we're not in that room. We're gonna, I'd love to be a fly against the wall.
I said that.
To the conversation, but I'm glad that we're not making this decision because there's going to be 2 teams who are extremely upset with the decision, and rightfully so because all 3 teams have played real well. And, we'll see. I don't know. I have no idea what to expect right now. But, again, it's going to come down to do you value head-to-head, do you value strength of schedule, or do you value that fan base? And if it is that fan base, Ohio State's going to jump both Big 12 teams, and, it's going to be chaos around this area.
We're talking with Damon Sayles, our Big 12 ESPN insider. And when you said that, Spencer Conley. Now, Spencer Conley is a motivational speaker. The man is a former professional football player. I tell you, we were geeked up. But you're going to tell me Ohio State's going to jump TCU and Baylor. Boy, I tell you what, that'd be a heck of a move. However, that could be the Tom Osborne, Barry Alvarez, Commissioner Beebe, UT. Thank you very little. Back to the Big 12.
Well, exactly. And then you also have to remember that there's been so much going on with how Baylor's feeling about, especially this the rankings last week, how Baylor felt about TCU jumping number 3. Baylor has arguably the most legitimate argument of everybody. They beat TCU. They beat them on the field. Now, we all saw the game. TCU was up 21 late. They blew it. But the bottom line is they beat TCU, and our Browns had a really cool comment last night after the game. He said, "Hey, if I beat you in a race, I've beaten you in a race. Therefore, I'm better than you." So it doesn't matter what everybody else says. The bottom line is Baylor beat TCU. Now, on the flip side of that, TCU is going to say it doesn't matter what happened because you might have beat me in the race, but you let West Virginia take you out. So, your strength of schedule is bad. But, I mean, these guys have been going back and forth. Ohio State's kind of been sitting in the cut, just hanging out, doing their thing. And, I mean, they just physically dominated Wisconsin last night. I was not expecting that. A lot of people weren't expecting that. And I think that's what's really making this going to be extremely hard for the committee because I think they were banking on one of those teams to lay an egg, and it didn't happen. So, again, I'm just glad we're not making a decision, but we get a chance to see how it's all going to unfold. And that committee's got it's got an absolutely tough decision to make. First year out the box. Good luck with that, guys.
I think that's very difficult. Because something sounds good doesn't mean that it's right. So when we back up, even under the old system, you were judged on how you played football later in the season. Well, I can guarantee, and I believe that everybody will agree, that TCU, even though that was a great game against Baylor, they've gotten a lot better since that loss.
Right.
So then, obviously, they're contributing that to why they're jumping them. And I do believe that they're playing better football than Baylor, even though Baylor beat them in the head-to-head. Now, in Ohio beating Wisconsin, nobody was expecting Wisconsin to be in the Final Four anyway. The winner of the Big Ten, I just, you can say anything. You can wrap it however you want. I just don't think that that Ohio should outrank Baylor or TCU when they've been there the whole time.
And you make a great point. No one was looking at TCU until they dropped 82 on Texas Tech. And, as much as the committee won't admit that it's about style points. Oh, it's about style points. It's definitely about style points. And the world kind of stopped whatever they were doing, and everybody looked and they said, wait a minute, what's going on in Fort Worth? When you drop 82 on anybody, it doesn't matter if it's Texas Tech, doesn't matter if it's Monmouth, doesn't matter if it's the Colorado School of Mines. People are going to look around. They're going to say, "Okay, what happened? How did they do it?" And and then they're going to pay attention to the stats, and they're going to pay attention to the ESPN and the highlights. I mean, TCU could have dropped 100 if they really, really wanted to. So style points mean a whole lot, and to a lot of people. Now the question is, okay, do we value style points, or do you value what have you done for me lately with these Ohio State Buckeyes? Personally, I would look at either Baylor or TCU to take that fourth spot. Just my opinion. But again, I have nothing to do with this decision. I'm going to be sitting there waiting for it, just like everybody else. We'll be watching it, and it's going to be definitely going to be a water cooler discussion on Monday, and I'm looking forward to it.
We're talking with Damon Sayles, our ESPN Big 12 insider, and a lot of great points. I want to be in that on that selection committee, because somebody has to say not everybody gets a trophy. All that is out the window.
Right.
Okay? There are winners and there are losers.
Yeah.
And the reason why winners enjoy being winners, because we don't want to be losers. We love trophies. We love T-shirts that say champions and hats that say champs, and getting an opportunity to hold up a trophy and have our fans go to another game.
It's even more than that,
so
Steve.
TCU lost
it's somebody being able to sell the hats, the trophies, the T-shirts, which is causing the whole problem. Because when you have a legitimate playoff system across the board, even if it's in Pop Warner, nobody complains. Nobody complains. Nobody complains about. You know who's going to the playoffs in the NFL. You know who's going to the playoffs in
head-to-head is the number one tiebreaker in the NFL.
Right. And
hey, Damon,
it is what it is.
Will you do this? Will you stay through this break? And then we got to keep on going, brother. We need to talk to you more. I cannot let you go with just this little information.
I'm here for you, Sam. Let's do it.
Okay, we're going to take a sidebar right now. We're going to come back and still talk college football playoffs with our ESPN Big 12 insider, Damon Sayles, right here on Laying Down the Law.
Ain't no joke.
That's right, and we're back. And he is no joke. Damon Sayles, our ESPN Big 12 insider. And this is getting serious, son. Jeff Blake out in St. Louis visiting his son, NFL wide receiver Emory Blake. We got to figure this top four out. Damon Sayles, I got a question. The serious is cancer. Who can keep the average dancer hyper as a heart attack?
Nobody's smiling.
That's right. We need 4 teams, and I get that the waxing occurred in the Big Ten championship. I get that Baylor beat TCU head-to-head. So why am I going through all these iterations, rigmaroles, unless I say, wait a minute, Ohio State has a huge fan base. They spend more money on college football merchandise than anybody else except UT. Maybe if I put them in against Oregon in the Rose Bowl and I took Alabama and Florida State down in the Sugar Bowl, then the winner of those two can meet in Jerry World, and all of us could go, and life's good in Texas. No, life is not good in Texas with that outcome.
That tends to be the discussion as of about, 10 or 11 o'clock last night. Unfortunately, that could be the case, man. I mean, we all know money talks. We all know that this thing is driven by the almighty dollar, and when it comes down to it, there are very few people or very few teams that can get revenue the way that Ohio State can. And will that be the ultimate decider? I don't know. I mean, would it make sense? Of course it would make sense. Would it be fair to TCU and Baylor? Probably not. But again, we all know, revenue is key here. Making money is what it's all about, and they're going to call it. It's going to be a great matchup for this and that. You can put the top 6 teams. It doesn't matter which 6 teams compete against whichever team makes the top 4. That's going to be a great matchup. But this may come down to money, and it is what it is. And again, we're just going to have to pay attention, man.
Well, that would be very disheartening, especially if coaches now slide to the money scale of things now that they're on a committee, because I would believe that they would be the very fabric that would go about competition and head-to-head. I would dare say if Tom Osborne beat Barry Alvarez, that he say that it didn't matter that he beat Wisconsin. I think he says absolutely it matters if it comes down to it. You have to – I mean, that's why you play the other team, Damon. And if it's scheduled – Florida State and Miami play a lot of times the first 2 or 3 games in a season. But if it came down to equal records and somebody was looking at, say it's a 6 team and there was a wild card spot, if Miami beat Florida State early – color me gone, it's over.
But it wouldn't matter back in the day, Steve, because they went off of who played the better.
I'm just saying now with if you had 6 slots and you had a wild card slot, 5 power conferences get a team,
right,
and then a wild card that could be made up of anybody, and you looked at a head-to-head, that's why you go head-to-head.
But remember, back in the day, even with the old BCS, you couldn't lose a game late in the season. If you were going to lose and you were credible, it had to be done early, because you should be playing your better football later. And what I saw was TCU lose a battle to Baylor at Baylor, come back, get in the same situation in West Virginia, and then win that game. TCU is playing better football than Baylor. Baylor's cruising to me.
Oh, I believe that.
They're cruising.
That.
So if you're going to look at all the things that we're looking at, it's legitimate to say that TCU, even though they lost the head-to-head, they're playing better football than Baylor. You tell me what you think, Damon.
I think both of you guys make excellent points, and
oh, you took the low road, bro. You can take a side. Take a side.
I'm gonna take a side.
You gotta take a side, son.
Take a side.
No, I'm gonna take a side. But I do feel like you guys make excellent points. But when I'm looking at all 3 teams, here's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at head-to-head, okay? That's just me. I'm not looking at head-to-head. I'm looking at what team do I feel can represent college football as the national champion. And when I say that, I'm saying I'm not looking at week 1. I'm not looking at week 5. I'm looking at this final week of play, these final 2 weeks of play. What exactly are these teams doing to make me say, you know what, I think they can take Oregon out? Or I think that they can get with Alabama. Or I'm pretty positive that Florida State's not going to win another 3-point game, and they're going to dominate the Seminoles. So, I mean, when I look at that, I can look at TCU and say defensively, I think that they can hang with any team of the top 6. When I look at Baylor, I say offensively, I think they can outscore anybody in the top 6. And then there's this Buckeyes team that I had absolutely I don't want to say no love for, but I just had no confidence for after losing J.T. Barrett. And Jones comes in the game and throws together this masterpiece performance as a third-string quarterback. So now you have to say, okay, is it a system deal with Ohio State right now? Because if that's the case, I'm scared for any of these teams to play Ohio State. Right now, because of how TCU is set up, because they're the number 3 spot, to me, it would only be right if you kept them in the top 4. But again, we all know that life is not fair, number 1.
Yes.
This committee does what it wants to do, number 2. And third, and most importantly, again, college football is all about money, and it's all about revenue, and it's all about fan base. So which team is going to provide the most ticket sales? So that might lead Baylor and TCU out of this conversation altogether. And it'll be disheartening. It'll be frustrating. But then most people say it's going to be business.
But and you know what? And I say go ahead, do it. It'll be good because the other 3 teams will handle Ohio, and then this conversation starts again after that happens.
Absolutely.
So, you know, go ahead and let it happen. You know, to me, just like you said, I can see any of those other 4 being a national champion. I can't see Ohio being a national champion.
I can't really see, honestly, Florida State being a national champion. However, they are the defenders, and they get the right to defend as long as they win.
Right.
I know they don't win. I don't know what the odds are in Vegas.
When you have a scholarship kid at a school like Ohio, we all know. Let's set some of these fans that are listening straight. That is still a scholarship kid. That is not a walk-on quarterback, number 1. So sometimes you're behind people because your deck is stacked and you're just waiting your turn. Just because we didn't know who the kid was don't mean that he's not good. It doesn't mean that he couldn't play. And he's proven that. He just hadn't had a chance to play. He's at Ohio State for a reason. So I don't look at it, wow, look at what they're doing. They're dominating with their 3rd-string quarterback that is still a scholarship athlete. He's still a scholarship athlete, and he's at Ohio for a reason. Ohio State for a reason.
Yeah, and again, you know, when you look at him physically, 6'5", 250 pounds, you know, physically he's a specimen. That wasn't the question. The question was, can this 3rd stringer, you know, come in and put on a performance similar to a Braxton Miller, similar to a J.T. Barrett? You know, I'm not necessarily telling him that he has to throw for 300 and run for 100. That's not the case. But can you move the ball? Can you be a game manager? Can you score touchdowns? Your defense is going to do what its defense does, and we saw that. You know, when they're clicking on all cylinders, they're as good as anybody in the nation, and we saw that. But can you be J.T. Barrett? Can you be better than J.T. Barrett? Because before the season started, you weren't better than J.T. Barrett. J.T. Barrett took your number 2 spot when he got there. So that was the big question with Jones, and he showed last night that it doesn't matter where I am. All that matters is when I get on the field, what I do, and whether or not I produce. So that's the biggest deal with him. And now the biggest question is that committee going to value the opportunity that this 3rd stringer got on Saturday? So we'll see.
I think Ohio State did an extraordinary feat in the Big Ten championship, no doubt. However, Baylor knocks off a number 9, a top 10 team in the last week. TCU smashes a cream puff. They should have smashed the cream puff. So, non-ranked, top 10 team who could have also had a share of the Big 12, Baylor beats them. It was at a margin of 2-1 at 38-20 for a minute. And there was never in doubt that Baylor wasn't going to win that game. So they beat TCU. I'm going, you know, for all those people that have the issue of we're not going to pay the players and, you know, they should be happy with their scholarship, this is big money and big business. Everyone has said that. So if that's the case, it is about the money, it is about big business, it is about selling tickets, so on and so forth. However, you cannot lose the essence of college football and the fact that athletes and coaches compete to win. And when someone wins and when someone beats a number 9, not a 13, not an unranked, a top 10 team in the last week, and they've knocked off a team in the top 4, I'm dropping the mic. Baylor.
Well, isn't that the reason why TCU jumped Baylor in the first place? For them taking that top 10 victory earlier in the season, and people looking at them with the "what have you done for me lately" attitude. They said, okay, TCU's playing much better football. They just beat this top 10 team. Let's see. I think they're better than Baylor, and everybody was saying, well, TCU should have beat Baylor. It was 21 points. They were up 21 points in the fourth, and they blew it in the end. And if this was a neutral site, yada 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 yada. I think that was the same situation. And if you're on that Baylor side, you can say that, hey, you guys had TCU jump us for the same situation. Now, we beat a top 10 team in Kansas State.
Right.
So what are you going to do about that? Because, again, we have to keep going back to the original discussion. Baylor beat TCU in a head-to-head battle.
Right.
And in a head-to-head battle, that's usually the first tiebreaker for a lot of things.
Everything. It's for everything, Damon. It's for everything. That's why you do it.
Right, but, Steve, 1 minute you say, okay, everybody shouldn't get a trophy. Even the old BCS didn't work. There should have never been 2 national champions. And that's happened a few times. Where you had to share a national champion. That shouldn't have happened. Play it all the way out. There's not enough teams in this playoff system.
But we have to deal with today.
For it to work.
But we have to deal with today. We have to deal with today.
Yeah, we had this conversation earlier. We need to go to 8, 10 teams. You got to have more teams.
At least 6, because that gives all the 5 power conferences.
No, because then there's
card.
2 more that's going to complain. Because listen, we're looking at and to make it fun. To give an opportunity to an underdog, somebody that you don't believe could do it. Oh, come on.
This ain't no basketball. No basketball tournament.
You're right. Let me tell you something. I know the New York Giants got 2 Super Bowls that towards the end of the season,
Oakland Raiders
I did not
the
think that they were going to win the Super Bowl.
Okay. My Oakland Raiders. So I get that, but they still had to be. There was a cutoff somewhere. Has to be a cutoff. All right, Damon, give us your Final Four, son. You got. This is the real deal. Holyfield.
All right, Final Four, and I haven't given this yet because I've been thinking about it since last night. But I'm going to say Alabama. I'm going to say Florida State. You got to give it to Oregon, of course. And I'm going to trust that the committee. I don't want to say does the right thing, but honors the team that they had ranked higher. And I'm going to say TCU is at number 4 spot. Now I'm not 100% sold. I'm not 20% sold on it. But I'm going to honor. I'm going to expect that they honor TCU's number 3 spot from last week, but they dropped them to number 4 because of what Florida State did. Florida State is undefeated, and the bottom line is whether or not they win ugly or however they win, they're winning games.
Yes.
And they're finding ways to win this, and I'm still trying to figure that out because Georgia Tech should have won. That's a whole other story.
Oh, man. They had them.
They should have, man.
Well, listen, so did Louisville had them. Several teams had them. But you know what? That's what you like about your champion.
But that's the mark of a champion.
That's right.
That's what you like about your champion. And I don't like Florida State. I'm sick of looking at Winston. And I do want them to lose. But I'm not going to hate on the champion. That's what you like about
it's just like a prize fight. It's just like the prize fight.
You gotta knock him out.
The heavyweight champ or the welterweight champ doesn't win pretty, but they win. They still the champ.
That's right.
I
can live with that. Hey, Damon, I can live with that.
We always say that you may not hate it, you may not like a team, but you have to respect the team. And in this case, Florida State is the most respected team in the country because they have not lost and they refuse to lose. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, man. Well, we certainly appreciate it. We will be watching, listening, tweeting. You can tweet to Spencer, which is I don't have yours down here.
SC2 Driven.
SC2 Driven. You got me, I got you. It's going to be flying off the chain once these teams get announced and so on and so forth. We'll know all the bowl game scenarios here at the end of the day and a lot more. So we appreciate the time, brother. And,
thanks, Damon.
Stay tuned. In fact, we may have to have you back once all this is decided and the smoke clear to give some rationale to the madness.
Always want to talk to you guys, man. You enjoy your Sunday.
You do the same, brother.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. There he is, our ESPN Big 12 Insider Damon Sayles. We're going to come back with the AAU Focus on Youth Sports. We're going to go from the college ranks to the youth ranks. Probably some dissension there, too. But you know what? It seems like they got it right because they play it out and get a champion. So stay with us. We're coming back with Rod Chico Tanner right here on Laying Down the Law.